Next year, Starbucks is closing an additional 100 stores in the U.S.
That says its board has approved a restructuring plan that'll involve the closure of coffee houses and further transformation of the company's support organization as part of its Back to Starbucks strategy under CEO Brian Niccol.
Starbucks closed 100 stores in a single year. But something doesn't add up. Coffee consumption in America hasn't dropped at all. Americans are drinking more coffee than ever before. So if people are still getting their caffeine fix, where exactly are they going? And why is Starbucks, the company that once made coffee cool, desperately trying to hide the real answer? This isn't just about overpriced lattes or Instagram-worthy cups. This is about how the most dominant coffee empire in American history lost its way. How a brand that redefined an entire industry became the very thing it once fought against. And why millions of loyal customers are walking away and never coming back. When you think of Starbucks, you probably picture crowded cafes, green aprons, and drinks with names longer than a paragraph. But here's something most people don't know. Starbucks wasn't even a coffee shop, not at first. In 1971, 3 men opened a small store at Pike Place Market in Seattle. A writer, history teacher, a film teacher. Not businessmen, not entrepreneurs. Just 3 enthusiasts who loved coffee beans. And that's all they sold. Beans, equipment, grinders. You couldn't actually buy a cup of coffee there. For 10 years, Starbucks remained exactly that. A small local supplier with fewer than 5 locations, all in Seattle. They were perfectly content being a niche bean retailer for coffee enthusiasts. Then, 1982 happened. A man named Howard Schultz joined as the new marketing director. And almost immediately, he saw something the founders had completely missed. Schultz took a trip to Milan, Italy. He wandered into one of 1,500 espresso bars scattered across the city. What he witnessed changed everything. People weren't just grabbing coffee and leaving. They were staying, talking, laughing. The baristas knew customers by name. The cafe was woven into the fabric of daily life. The realization hit him. America needed this. Not just beans in a bag, but an experience. Place to belong. Schultz returned to Seattle with a vision. We need to serve actual coffee. Create a whole cafe culture. The founders rejected the idea outright. They believed brewed coffee was a distraction that would cheapen their brand. Schultz disagreed so strongly that he quit and started his own cafe chain called Il Giornale. But he wasn't done with Starbucks, not even close. In 1987, Howard Schultz did something bold. He raised $3.8 million from investors, returned to those same founders who had rejected his vision, and bought the entire company.
I had no money to buy Starbucks. The purchase price was $3.8 million in 1987. And so the good news is the opportunity, bad news, no money. So I went to my existing investors to try and raise the $3.8 million. And Jerry said, if you can raise the money in 60, 90 days, it's yours. But at the same time, just to cover myself, I'm going to start talking to other people in case you can't raise the money. A week or 2 later, he calls me up and says, I got some bad news. I've got an all-cash offer. And it turned out that one of our investors had gone around me and tried to steal the opportunity. And I tell you, I was just heartbroken. I couldn't believe it.
$4 million. For context, that's less than what some people pay for a house in Seattle today. The moment he took control, Schultz began dismantling the old model. Bean bins moved to the back, espresso machines moved to the front. Suddenly, you could actually sit down and drink something. But Schultz made another critical decision. He didn't just change what Starbucks sold, he changed how they treated people who worked there. In the 1980s, part-time workers were largely invisible. No benefits, no stake in the company. Schultz flipped that model completely. If you worked 20 hours a week, you received health insurance and stock options. You were called a partner, not an employee. This was unheard of in retail at the time. Was Schultz simply being generous? Partly. But he also understood something fundamental. Happy workers make better coffee. They remember your name. They care about the quality of your drink.
We're not in the business of filling bellies. We're in the business of filling souls. This is how we feel. We're in the business of human connection and humanity. creating communities, and a third place between home and work.
By 1992, Starbucks went public. 165 stores, $271 million in market value on day one. And then, the expansion accelerated. Throughout the 1990s, Starbucks opened a new store every single business day. Not every week, every day. Schultz had a phrase he used constantly. The third place, not home, not work, somewhere in between where you could simply exist. Americans embraced the concept immediately.
Everyone knows their cappuccino from their espresso. That's beginner's phraseology. However, the hip coffee drinker should be ordering a leche or a latte.
A leche. Leche's milk. Do you mean latte?
And
Cafe latte, and leche is café con leche in Spanish. Yes, I do.
Espresso doesn't have any milk.
Now let me think. Espresso are the small ones, aren't they? The latte are the big ones, so they have more milk, don't they?
By the year 2000, Starbucks operated 3,500 stores. They had grown from 165 locations to 3,500 in just 8 years. Some stores opened directly across the street from other Starbucks locations. The company was competing with itself, but the real achievement was something else entirely. Convincing Americans to pay $4 for coffee. That white cup with the green mermaid became more than a beverage container. It became a status symbol. You weren't just drinking coffee, you were signaling that you had taste, that you understood quality. Starbucks taught Americans a new vocabulary: barista, grande, venti. Terms that were foreign suddenly became part of everyday conversation. By 2008, Starbucks generated $10 billion in annual revenue. A coffee company was earning more than the entire economy of some nations. The brand became so dominant that Starbucks became a verb. But when something grows that rapidly, when every decision prioritizes scale over substance, fractures begin to form. Small ones at first, easy to ignore, until they're not. In 2007, Howard Schultz wrote a memo that was never meant to be public. The subject line read, "The commoditization of the Starbucks experience." The translation was clear. We sold our soul. Schultz had stepped away as CEO in 2000, allowing new leadership to take control.
News just into our newsroom, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz has stepped down. He sent a letter to employees this morning saying, "Today, I am entrusting you all with Starbucks, something that holds a place in my heart second only to that of my beloved family."
And the company came back different. The new executives had a simple philosophy: faster, cheaper, more efficient. It sounded logical on paper. In practice, it was devastating. The manual espresso machines where customers could watch baristas craft their drinks were replaced with automated units that blocked the view entirely. The ritual of watching someone make your coffee traded for a few seconds of speed. Every store began looking identical. Walk into a Starbucks in Portland, walk into one in Phoenix, same furniture, same artwork, same corporate template. That cozy neighborhood cafe feeling that had made Starbucks special, paved over for consistency. Customers noticed, complaints increased, the coffee tastes burnt. My drink was watered down. This doesn't taste like it used to. Then 2008 arrived. The economy collapsed. Banks failed. People lost homes. That $4 coffee suddenly seemed less like a treat and more like an unaffordable luxury. Starbucks closed 600 stores in a single year.
We've got Starbucks opening up all these stores recently, expanding quickly, only to shut 600 stores down now, but then saying we want to open more stores soon.
So we've got to retrace our steps now, shut all those suckers down before we can open up some new ones. The stock market obviously is not liking this news. They're trading at the lowest level they've been at since like 2003. What variance means that they probably have a lot of revenue per square foot in their really, really high traffic dense stores and very, very low revenue per square foot at some of their newer stores.
The first major contraction in company history, downturn impact. The unstoppable expansion had finally stopped. But the pricing problems were only beginning. A medium latte at Starbucks currently costs between $5.50 and $7, depending on location. That same drink in 2019 cost around $4. That represents a 40% increase in 5 years. Inflation affected everyone. Costs rose across the board. But Starbucks raised prices faster than nearly every competitor. The assumption was that customer loyalty would override price sensitivity.
As of November 17th, Starbucks made changes to the prices of their coffee. For the first time ever, the company has lowered its prices on some of their more popular items. But even though the price of coffee beans per pound actually decreased this month, Starbucks also raised their prices on the drinks that are larger and more complicated to make.
The reason they're raising prices is in an attempt to protect their margins or how much they make either per customer or per cup of coffee. And what they're going to try to do now is find out if they can pass along some of those costs.
It was a miscalculation. The average American income hasn't grown anywhere close to 40%. That daily coffee habit that once felt like a small indulgence now represents a significant expense. One drink per day at $6 equals roughly $2,000 per year. The psychological impact matters. Starbucks transitioned from affordable luxury to financial burden, from daily ritual to occasional splurge. But price is only part of the equation. What customers are actually consuming for $7 raises different concerns. A grande caramel frappuccino contains 54 grams of sugar. A can of Coca-Cola contains 39 grams. Customers are paying premium coffee prices for drinks that exceed soda in sugar content. Starbucks has quietly transformed from a coffee company into something else entirely. A dessert company that happens to sell caffeine. Those seasonal drinks that dominate social media often contain more sugar than candy bars. Health-conscious consumers began reading ingredient lists and quietly stopped visiting. Then there's the pricing structure for alternatives. Oat milk costs an additional 70 cents or more. In many markets, oat milk actually costs Starbucks less than dairy. They charge customers extra for a cheaper ingredient. The shift happened gradually over 2 decades. Starbucks built its reputation on quality espresso for coffee enthusiasts. Now, the best-selling items are caffeinated milkshakes. But while Starbucks was perfecting sugar delivery systems, competitors were watching carefully. Dutch Bros emerged from Oregon with over 900 locations. Their advantage was simple: employees who seemed genuinely happy. Prices $2 lower. Then came an unexpected challenger: McDonald's. Their McCafe espresso drinks cost nearly half what Starbucks charges. Blind taste tests reveal most consumers cannot distinguish between them. The company known for hamburgers was producing comparable coffee. Dunkin' rebranded entirely, dropping donuts from their name and positioning themselves as the accessible alternative. Coffee for regular people who don't need premium prices, but the most significant threat came from an unexpected source: home. Modern espresso machines have become affordable and capable. A $300 appliance can now replicate coffee shop quality. Cold brew requires minimal equipment. Online tutorials number in the millions. Even gas stations entered the premium coffee market. Wawa, Sheetz, Buc-ee's. Fresh ground coffee at a fraction of Starbucks price. The pattern is clear. Starbucks created the premium coffee market, educated American consumers about quality, then watched as competitors replicated the model at lower costs. The Green Mermaid still dominates in total locations. But size means nothing when the foundation is crumbling. The numbers tell a stark story. Starbucks same-store sales dropped 6% in early 2024. The steepest decline since the 2008 recession. Not slow growth, actual contraction. The company has cycled through 3 CEOs in 2 years. That level of leadership turnover indicates deep structural problems. Customer wait times have tripled during peak hours. What once took 3 minutes now requires 10 or 15. Mobile orders have overwhelmed stores that lack adequate staffing to process them. Customers order ahead to save time, then watch walk-in customers receive drinks first. Employee dissatisfaction has reached critical levels. Unionization efforts have spread to over 400 stores. Workers cite impossible workloads, inadequate compensation, and the stress of preparing increasingly complex custom orders. The stock market has responded accordingly. Starbucks shares have significantly underperformed compared to broader market indices. Billions in shareholder value has evaporated. Howard Schultz returned to stabilize the company, then departed again. Brian Niccol now leads a brand that millions of Americans have simply abandoned. Too expensive, too unhealthy, too disconnected. Locations that once had lines extending out the door now sit half empty. The Green Mermaid isn't disappearing. Over 38,000 locations worldwide don't vanish overnight. But the empire that once seemed invincible is showing fractures that continue widening. The lesson here is straightforward. Starbucks didn't fail because of inferior coffee. They failed because they forgot what made them exceptional in the first place. They stopped being the third place and became just another transaction. They stopped caring about experience and started obsessing over quarterly earnings. They stopped listening to customers and started dictating what customers should want. The irony is almost poetic. The company that taught America to slow down and savor a moment became the very thing they opposed: rush, convenience, commodity. Howard Schultz once said he wanted to build a company his father would have been proud to work for. Somewhere along the way, that vision got lost, and now America is turning away, not with anger, not with protests, just quietly choosing something else. A local cafe, a home brew, a competitor who remembers that coffee is supposed to be more than caffeine delivery. The question isn't whether Starbucks will survive. They're too large to disappear completely. The question is whether they can remember who they used to be before it's too late. Whether they can recapture that quality that made a simple cup of coffee feel worth paying for, worth waiting for, worth returning for. Because right now, for millions of Americans, the answer is no. And some fractures can't be repaired with another seasonal launch.